The Genius of Dogs, written by Brian Hare and Vanessa Woods, provides an enjoyable read covering such topics as domestication, the intelligence of dogs, and the way that dogs and humans interact. The book takes place in the present for the most part, with flashbacks to Brian Hare's past experiences. One of said stories is a story in which Hare travels to Russia to meet Dmitry Belyev's famous foxes. Near the end of the 50s, Belyev started a grand genetics experiment. Belyev began to breed silver foxes. However, there was a twist. Belyev would specifically breed foxes that interacted well with humans. He also kept a control group of foxes that were bred randomly. Belyev soon had fascinating results. He found that the foxes that were bred with tame traits grew floppy ears, curly tails, and splotched coats. Belyev had domesticated foxes. When Hare visits these foxes some 40 years later, he describes them as being dog-like. In addition, a good portion of the book looks at the cognition of dogs, so cleverly named dognition. Hare describes many of the experiments he has tried with dogs and analyzes his findings. Generally speaking, Hare discovers that dogs look to humans for help in many of these experiments. An example would be an experiment in which a dog has to look for food under several cups. Hare found that when a human pointed to a cup and directed a dog to a certain cup, the dog would almost always choose that cup. This even occurred when the dog saw the humans put the food under a different cup entirely. This experiment shows the trust and relationship that dogs share with humans. I should start by saying that I'm not entirely sure if this book was meant to be with the rest of the sociology books. The librarian might have thought it was something that it is not. Throughout the book, I looked for references to sociology and didn't find any. This is most likely because sociology revolves around the study of human-to-human relationships, and this book is mostly about dogs. So you can see my problem. However, this book does contain loads of information about human-dog relations, so I'll try to cover that. For starters, dogs, as we know them, have been vastly influenced by humans. Dogs began as wolves. The rest is basically theory. I think Hare's theory makes a good case by saying that the first dogs were wolves that weren't afraid of humans. As the human race began to expand, they began to hunt wolves. As a result, only the friendly wolves that interacted with humans survived. These wolves began to see physical changes like the Belyev foxes, and thus dogs were born. Soon, the non-material culture of some cultures began to include dogs. Dogs were used as hunting companions, guards, and in some cases food. By using cooperation, the dog and human races were able to strive for the same goal, survival. Up until the late 19th century, dogs were still not treated the same way as they are today. Then something changed. The upper class around the world began to see dog breeding as a sport and expensive hobby. This influenced pop culture around the world, and before long, everyone had a dog. Through the influence of humans, wolves, often regarded as ferocious creatures, were turned into dogs, now man's best friend.